It's v.h.s.x. What do you mean?
All right, everybody, welcome back to a brand new video. Today we got a Reddit forum post that was recommended actually by one of you guys, who actually is the same person who created this post here, Dr. Katz 11. So shout out to Dr. Katz for submitting this to be discussed, because I think it really offers a unique perspective that we're really not discussing too often, I believe, and it has to do with the new player experience. And as they're claiming, 170 hours played coming into the game and sort of seeing where the flaws are, even like, which is really funny. It's like even quicker than it used to be. I think what I find really funny is that when people join the game and they, get accustomed to how, the community is and how ridiculous they are, I think that it's interesting that like the hours that people are playing and then leaving the game, or playing and then realizing that the community is like the way it is less and less. And that's purely anecdotal, but let's go ahead and give it a read. So it says, respect, playing nice, and DBD. So this, as a new player in this community with about 170 hours and a former fighting game competitive minded player, I feel like some of the complaints I've seen in this community is laughable. I do completely agree. They say I'm honestly not trying to come off as disrespectful or mean, but does anyone else who has been playing this game for a good while feel like it is extremely ironic that people complain that killers don't play nice? This is a video game where one side's perspective is to kill the other players, not even knock out like a fighting game, but actually, end them. Then people will complain that the killers are mean. Isn't that what they are supposed to be? From the most basic linguistic standpoint, isn't it silly as hell to assume that these characters would play nice? That goes against the core philosophy of what the role is. I just don't get it. Now, I have to completely agree, because it's in the name, obviously. Also, if you even take into account like lore, a lot of characters are not very sympathetic. The clown is a perfect example. If you ever look into the lore for the clown, you're gonna be in for quite a shock. And I think they represented that kind of character pretty well in DBD, because he seems like he's a pretty disgusting individual. But just as an example, like, we're not playing as a party clown that has a 9 to 5 and does this as a hobby, and he just so happened to get caught in the fog, and then now he has to swing his little plastic hammer at everybody and pat them on the ass as they leave. They are simply here like because they enjoy ending lives. Like, that's literally what their entire thing is all about. So I find it really strange. Like, it's even in this, you could even flip it around and ask, let's say for another kind of game, like in a shooter of some kind. I don't think there's any shooter in existence that has this weird mindset that, oh, if you're deciding to use your weapon against me, you're a bad player, but I can use the gun and I'm not the bad player. You are, because you use the gun. It's like, what are we talking about? So let's go ahead and read some of the responses. So it says, part of the problem is that DBD has a unique overlap of casual and competitive players, and a matchmaking system that serves neither of them adequately. And then Dr. Katz responded saying, well said. Coming from fighting games, which admittedly are probably more competitive, the casual mindset doesn't make sense to me. When I play a game, I am playing to win and complete an objective, since that is what the rules of the game/sport are telling me to do. Seems like a lot of the DBD community desires a goof off or private fun mode. Now, what I find really odd is, why aren't more people like in customs doing that, right? Because if you're looking for that kind of whimsical experience where you can just have a little playground that you can do whatever you want, that's what customs are for. Because you have access to every perk, you have access to any map you want at the click of a button, and you can queue up with friends. You could even have people play as killer or play as survivor or even spectate. It's very open-ended in that way, right? You don't earn any MMR or lose any MMR. You don't earn any blood points or gain any blood points. So my question is, why aren't more people in customs instead? Is I find that really strange. They go into the playlist where it's the Wild West, and then they get upset that they're facing ridiculous things. Now, of course, when you are dealing with any game that's multiplayer, of course we're going to have players that are going to min-max, and that is another aspect that I want to add on, is that it should be expected to some extent. And if you do end up encountering that, if you're not a competitive player, I honestly believe it would be best to just shrug it off and move on, because your intention with going into the game should be solely focused on your perspective and how you decide to actually play the game. At the end of the day, you can only control your own response and perspective with what you're engaging with. They respond and say, yeah, most fighting games have competitive players only as their target audience. Which I slightly disagree with. Like Smash Brothers, because they just brought it up here, it has been both a couch sort of co-op kind of, you know, sort of game that you can play with friends and just have fun and laugh and do whatever have you. So I disagree with that to some extent, because, you know, I don't think it's like directly like their target audience, because there's still a lot of casuals that were playing Smash. It just so happened that they both can coexist, especially because I believe there's a ranked mode too, I think. I don't know. But so they say the best comparison would be Smash Bros, which has both casuals and competitive players as their target audience. Okay, never mind then. So okay, we could just ignore what I just said. Casuals typically want to mess around with items, wacky stage gimmicks, and game modes. Competitive players instead want pure skills, no luck, 1v1. So they offer two different queues to satisfy both sides. DBD also targets casuals, but they only offer one queue, so the desires get mixed up with casuals that want no tunneling and such, and competitives that are fine with them. Which, yeah, I think that's probably a part of the pain point that comes with this game, I think, is literally that. It's only one queue, and a vast majority are in low MMR, and another vast majority, like I guess the rest, are going to be an average. So because of MMR and because of matchmaking, of course, like they want to prioritize queue time, at least from what I understand, right? From what we do know, matchmaking most likely is going to prioritize the queue time first, and foremost. So you're going to end up getting whatever, I guess, comes first in a lot of ways. And unfortunately, a lot of competitive people are also doing the same. And you might end up getting queued with them. And it ends up happening to be a part of their pain point. Oh, I'm getting tunneled when I don't know how to play. It's like, you know. And at the end of the day, despite the fact that it's two different playstyles, it still doesn't also directly ignore the fact that it is still a skill issue. So I do want to make that abundantly clear as well. They say closest Smash equivalent would be if there was only one queue that is FFA with items, and you have, which is free for all, and you'd have casuals complain about people ganging up on them, and competitors complaining about people not ignoring items. Which that's a fantastic comparison. And this person says, I disagree a bit. You can have fun as a casual in fighting games. Source, I am one. Fighting games does have a bitch. Fighting games have a much higher bar to clear before you can start actually having fun and winning. It's hard to get into something when you are constantly beaten down 24/7, even with the most creative attitudes, which is true. I found, even speaking for myself, I found it kind of hard to get into fighting games, as it feels like there's a lot to take in. And it is a little bit daunting, you know, to try to have to, like, you know, basically deep dive a really in-depth game. And I think it's a little hard to get into, especially like, and also it depends on the roster as well. Like if anybody who's familiar, I tried to get into MK1 because Ghostface dropped on there, and it was a little hard to get used to because I had more experience with Street Fighter. So going in, I was like, holy smoke, like the inputs feel oddly fast but then oddly slow at the same time. So that was very jarring. Oh, look, another person says, I came here from StarCraft 2, and the mentality change was a whiplash. People actively arguing for why they shouldn't have to try to win still baffles me. PvP equals comp in my brain. Trying to win isn't a discussion, it's like a prerequisite for booting the game up. That's a good point. I mean, that's just how it goes. I just don't understand the idea that you would go into a game that's about, well, any game, and just go like, well, I don't want to win. I just want to sit around and fiddle with the I guess the pieces on a board game or something. It's like, yeah, but the rest of us kind of want to play the actual game because it's a part of what makes it a game is that people are trying to win. So this person says, I don't think it's that people aren't trying to win. Everybody wants to win, whether you acknowledge it or not. It's more so that there's a lot of people who don't there's a lot of stuff people don't find fun to go up against, which ultimately boils down to meta skills and strategies, which is true. Some of which aren't very fun to go against. The biggest is like being tunneled out of the game, which even high skill players had to deal with one way or another. Or if you are the killer, being bullied by a coordinated four-man. Sure, there are people just playing the game, and you can look back to see what you did wrong, but it doesn't change the fact that it isn't fun when it happens to you. That is true. That is true. Now, when we talk about something like this, I usually bring up the point that, and this is like an issue that a lot of people have a problem with, is the fact that because it feels bad, therefore they have to insult the person, or they feel like they have to go publicly trying to, or even directly harassing the person or something like that, and then trying to spread a narrative saying that it's low skill or something like that to utilize strategy. And then that's where I draw the line, because it may be annoying to go up against and it's shit, but at the end of the day, it's not really good for the game or the community to then insult the people for doing that. Like, that's just what they do. That is how the game works at the fundamental level. But also, like, there's a lot of stuff in the game that doesn't really feel fair and that doesn't really feel good to go up against. Like, there's plenty of stuff all over the place. I mean, whether it be killer or survivor, there's a bunch of junk on the game that is just unfun. But the people that you should be trying to voice this to are the developers, not the community, not the people that you're up against, not the EGC. You should be, like, you know, talking directly to the devs. If you could tag them or something and be like, hey, this might be a bit of an issue, right? But even then, you have to also take into account the nuance, because there are people that ask for changes and nerfs and things because they simply don't understand how to play the character, or how to go up against something, or how to counter something, or how this works or how that works. But that is, of course, asking for way too much. You can't ask a lot of people to actually do the research. They just simply will refuse. This person says, I think it is also can't be ignored that in addition to these factors, it's a game that is uniquely unbalanced because the devs can't seem to decide what they want it to be. They don't really want it to be truly competitive, so they don't want to create too many restrictions, and are far more than happy to design killer powers and survivor perks that completely change the flow of the game or break established rules. But at the same time, they don't want it to be too silly or casual and all about keeping certain variables in strict lines like default movement speeds and animation timings. All of this on top of the weird way the game decides to handle ping and lag is just kind of a big soup pot of competing mechanics and ideals that don't really serve any side of the equation properly, and that means you have tons of games where everyone feels shortchanged. Which I can agree with that heavily. I do think that as from a killer perspective, the gap between Blight and Ghostface is gigantic. It is planetary. Like, it's kind of insane when you really think about it, because of the fact that one character is like flying across the map, injecting himself with various chemicals and screeching at the top of his lungs, gargling on his own orange splooge, and then the other guy is like, you know, having asthma because he's getting hit in the face with a piece of wood, because and he just sounds exhausted. Like, brother is exhausted. He's wearing that hot ass mask on his face, and he has to run around. And then he finally gets up to him, and then a giant piece of wood hits him in the forehead. Like, who else is not gonna be like, like you're just gonna do that? Like, that's just a given. Like, what else? What other response would you have against that? It's just ridiculous. So this person says, I'm all for giving people hatch and stuff every once in a while, but I don't like people who do. Oh, when you do not say, who do not do so, say killer with no personality, like they are entitled to my pity, which is something I talk about a lot. Sometimes I just want to roleplay the part of a ruthless killer, sacrificing humans to an eldritch god, and that's the point of the game. Nothing wrong with that. Exactly. Exactly. Because, you know, that's the whole point. Like, if you're picking like a character, especially from one of your favorite movies, like say you're a Halloween and you want to be Michael Myers, like what other game before this has had that? Not really any, right? Or Freddy hasn't even gotten a game like in the modern day, like, you know, or even playing as literally Sadako from Ringu, like that. Duh, like you would want to play as these cool characters, you know, you name it. So of course, like, you would want to feel like you're actually playing as that character. So the fact that it doesn't feel like you're actually playing as that character from the movie is crazy. Like, it's just weird. It's like, why would they make the game in that way? Like, that just makes no sense. So strange. This person says the problem is that DBD is so incredibly unbalanced that killers can use strategies and setups that make solo queue absolutely miserable, which is debatable, but we'll continue. At the same time, it's just another game for formats. Yeah. Now, the thing is that I want to disagree to some extent, because I do think that this is just a base off of like feelings and stuff like that. So I can't actually prove or disprove, because it's just feelings. So that's not something that you can do. But what I can say is that solo queue, it has many factors that make it unfun, or can be unfun rather, due to factors such as your teammates not playing well enough, not helping you and being a team, you know what I mean? And a lot of the time, because, you know, your teammate did X, Y, and Z, it usually leads to the killer then getting some kind of benefit. Now, you could also say that some strategies and setups will also contribute to that as well. I can agree with that, but I also want to make it all, like, well known that your teammates can also just contribute to that, which I wish was discussed more. I think that it's an important factor when discussing something like this, because at the end of the day, the killer could be playing as nice as possible and your teammates are still like amending against Legion or cleansing with Plague or whatever, and or, you know, any combination of things that you're like, you don't like, or whatever have you. Bridge the gap between solo queue and Swift, which is I hard disagree with that. I hard disagree with that, because if we're making it, like, here's my perspective on it. If we make solo queue and Swift exactly the same, that means we're gonna end up getting escape rates like through the roof, and we'll make killer extremely difficult for everybody involved. But then they're saying balance afterwards. Now, the thing is, we can't guarantee that that'll work either, because then you're probably gonna have another situation where killers are gonna somehow be overtuned somehow, or broken somehow, and that's not, I think, what we should be doing. I do think that we should be giving solo queue a bit more while taking away, or not like giving to Swift. You know what I mean? I think that's just a better mentality, because if we're trying to make Swift and solo queue exactly the same, then every match is Swift. And then if every match is Swift, then every killer is gutted. Like, that's pretty much guaranteed. The element of surprise is one of the most important factors that killers have. And if you just remove that completely by making Swift and solo queue essentially the same exact thing, which the biggest problem with Swift is the comms, right? So if you're having that much information given, then there's no element of surprise. Ghostface is gone. Like, he's already bad. Then you know where he is at all times, or at least 90% accuracy. Like, he's gonna he gets hit pretty bad. So you have to, there's a lot of nuance that goes into that. Until then, honestly, everyone's complaints, both sides are kind of valid, which is true to an extent. Depends on who's speaking. They say if every killer you faced only played ghoul or nurse, you would just quit the game. What people mean by playing nice is literally just not using the most broken strategies in the game. But this is where I disagree. There is no broken strategy in DBD. This is being dramatic for the sake of being dramatic. There is no broken strategy in the game for killer. There just is not. Have there been broken strategies for survivor? Yes, have been many things that have came and went that were ridiculous. The only time I've ever seen anything broken on killer has probably been maybe the thrill of the hunt buff, and that lasted a week. So no, there is no broken strategy in this game, and even then that was a build, so that wasn't even a strategy. So there's no broken strategy. So, and then they say even picking a killer like Ghostface right now is playing nice. I personally have never heard that. But maybe I should stop playing him then, because that is, I don't want to contribute to the entitlement of the community, so I might have to put him down. And it says why? Because they could have just played Myers, have insta downs on all players instead of the one they stalked, have a dash, can break pallets with his power. Like, the power difference there is absolutely insanity. Not necessarily. Keep in mind that both of these killers can insta down. Both of these killers are extremely what's the word for it? Weak, I guess I'll use the word weak. So these two killers are weak to whole W. They just are, right? And then they're pretty much the same. The only difference is that Myers is more lethal per loop, while Ghostface is dog doo-doo M1. He doesn't have anything. So, but they're still much closer to me, in my opinion, than I would say Ghostface to Blight. Ghostface to Blight, night and day. If you're saying Ghostface to Myers, like, especially with the only difference is dash. That's literally the only thing that everyone has a dirty diaper about, because it's like, oh man, it's the dash. Like, he can break pallet. Like, okay, come on now. Inclusion games busted, always be busted. Playing nice just means trying to have fun with the game rather than max or MMR, getting 4Ks every game. DBS is core a party game. It is not. That is not meant for fun, not to be taken seriously. That is why there's no rank mode. No, not at all. But all right, because this falls apart, because if it was a party game, why does it have a matchmaking system that is for competitive play? Why is there MMR then? You can't just say it's a party game with MMR, because then those two things are not the same. So no, that's incorrect. Let alone the definition of an asymmetrical, especially with Dead by Daylight, is different, which we can actually show that. All right. This person says that they feel like there should be a casual and ranked. I've discussed that in the past, where I don't really think it's a good idea. Anytime that there's ever been an additional queue, it has made the queue times way worse. But also, beyond that, of course, it also could, like, be what this person says. They will just have sweats go to casuals. So, but I just don't know how that's gonna work, you know. And it says right here, like, you know, this person might make a good point. It says people sweat their balls off almost every game currently in the casual queue. Obviously, if there was a ranked and casual, people will still sweat in the casual. This happens in every game. However, I do believe the casual queue would definitely be more relaxed than it is now, whereas the ranked queue would be sweaty constantly, which is fine as that its purpose. I do agree matchmaking desperately needs a massive overhaul. They can start by telling exactly how it works and possibly even snoring our MMR, but I doubt it. Oh, this person makes a really good point. They said the only people who want to play competitive already play in private lobbies, which is true. Technically speaking, the comp players are all in customs, so that does make sense. Everybody else just wants to win, and anyone trying harder than you to win is sweaty. true casual players in the way that you mean in here, doesn't really care if they win because their objective is getting value out of goofy perks and builds. It doesn't matter what mode they play, which is also very true. Well, we just found ourselves an interesting take here. It says, but you aren't actually murdering them. You're playing a video game. More than that, you're playing both against and with other people, and that's a unique situation that calls for unique playstyle. To me, the game is hide and seek with cosmetics and extra rules to spice it up. I kill the survivors the way I'd kill my friend playing tag at 10, like I still want to be friends afterwards. It's not everyone's playstyle or philosophy, but I low-key feel like as killer I'm providing a service to my lobby to give them as good as an experience as I can get. I'm just not having fun unless everyone else is having fun. You can get an AI to grind and to paste anywhere. Why come to DBD to do the same old thing? So right here is an extremely L take from my perspective, right? Now, from my perspective, if you want to play the party clown that's underpaid and smells like shit and is just going to be there to specifically serve the little survivors their fun little slop, then sure, you can do that. That's in your power. That's up to you, right? That's fine. But what I will say though is that that doesn't necessarily mean that all of a sudden that somebody who wants to win or win with their favorite characters or something like that are somehow invalid for doing that. Like I've discussed this before, like trying to provide some kind of service is a thankless job that you're not going to get anything in return for. You may get the occasional, you know, sucky, you know what I'm saying, from these survivors that you're up against. But at the end of the day, it's like you're not necessarily gonna walk away, you know, with like this resounding sort of like applause, like, oh yeah, you know, this whole lobby really had a great time. Like, no, like honestly, at the end of the day, you don't know what they find fun. At least for me personally, I would rather the killer just do his thing if I'm playing survivors, so I can continue to go on to my next game, because I don't want to sit there and have them stand there and stare at me and slap the gen a few times and look in the sky. Like I'm trying to play the game. I came in to play the game. I came in, if I'm clicking on survivor, I'm assuming that I'm gonna be killed. That's the point. Like, that's how it goes. Now, if we take into account what they're trying to say, right? This directly goes against, like, this entire statement directly goes against the design of the game. Now, I want to use the DBD website as a bit of a source here. Now, the thing is, even that I noticed, this is just a side tangent, but I noticed that even with how DBD decides to explain their game is very generalized and like really doesn't want to tell you exactly how it works in a way. Because right here it's like, okay, you need to stop them from doing the gens. Right here it says that you follow them, and then right here it says that you can down them and put them on a hook, right? And stuff like that. And you know what's funny is that I noticed with the website, they don't have any way of explaining directly like what the game's goal is about. So we're gonna have to use something else to really help that description, but just wanted to point that out. But anyway, I just want to quickly mention that what the original poster here is discussing is directly this. Ironically enough, right? Because the entire post is like, why are people having this weird like sort of feelings about trying to win the game, right? And then we have that exact response right here, because it says essentially, if I'm not having fun unless everyone is having fun. That's directly like what we're talking about with this discussion. And I still don't understand this mentality, right? Because there's at least a list of reasons why I really don't understand it. One, you don't know what the people that you're facing find fun. Me personally, when I play Survivor, like I've stated previously, if I'm clicking Survivor, I'm assuming that I'm going to be chased down and probably killed. Like, that's just how it goes. So if I end up getting, because I've been in lobbies like this, the friendly killer that wants to make sure everyone's having fun, I'm just bored out of my mind, because I'm like, I'm just trying to play the game, and then bro is staring at me, swinging at the gen and looking at the sky. Like, I'm like, okay, cool, but I'm trying to like play the game. Like that's what I logged in to do. Like, I wanted to get chased down or whatever if I'm picking that side. So I just find it really strange. The second thing, obviously, is that it kind of slightly goes against like the philosophy of the game. Like if you like, your entire thing is playing as a monster, I'm stepping into the shoes of a monster, I'm role playing as a monster that's trying to make these other like victims like, you know, have a hard time, essentially. Right? So becoming a party clown for a bunch of toddlers in this situation, I guess you could say, I think is a little odd, at least to me. You know what I mean? I may not understand it. For me, I would rather focus on my own fun, because like I've stated earlier, you know, we don't know what people find fun regardless. And plus, there are people that just get upset no matter how you play. You can play super fairly and then get bagged at the gate and insulted and get told slurs and all these kinds of things. You could play normal, you could play sweaty, you could play however you want, and you will receive the same amount of criticism. So at the end of the day, I'm always recommending just play however the hell you want, that you find fun, because at the end of the day, trying to please everyone pleases no one, or at least you're gonna miss out on somebody's fun, basically. And then of course we have like the brain dead response, as we can imagine. So they say people have a hard time understanding that everyone likes the same things as them. OP is a sweat lord and can't understand that some people just want to have fun. To each their own. So then it's clearly not to each their own, because you're bitching about OP being a quote unquote sweat lord, as if they like. It's really wild that you try to play semantics and pretend like they never wanted to win a match in any game ever. Like it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous to even make that kind of assumption. Calling people sweat lords because they play the game as intended. Exactly. I'm pretty sure the devs themselves have stated that they wanted to make the game originally to emulate the horror movie experience, like a hide and seek kind of thing. So I don't know, right? I don't know. So this is an interesting perspective. They say, I think there's a lot of misunderstanding when people say about killers playing nice. In my opinion, and it isn't about wanting free escapes. It isn't wanting them to play silly and go easy on us. It's about not wanting people to actively try to be douche lords. So this doesn't, so that really doesn't, before I continue reading, playing nice directly leads to free escapes. It directly leads to playing silly and going easy on you. So I'm not really sure what other possible situation that could be. You know what I mean? That's kind of wild, bro. I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, you know what I mean? That's kind of wild. It's like I think there's a misunderstanding about getting free benefits. I don't want the free benefits. I just want you to not play in a very generalized way that I think is bad, but I won't specify what that is. What? Like, you got to be more specific. Like, what are you talking about? So this person says, had a match just yesterday where one downed my total newbie friend and tried to say no, don't hook her. Killer shook head no to me, hit me, and hooked her, then went on to kill all of us. To me, that was a nice killer. They didn't BM. They knew what I was asking for, leniency, and responded in the negative. Left game and happily said, GG, well played, good luck next game. So then at that point, you don't need to call it playing nice. You just say they're playing the game normally. Like, why are we calling it playing nice then? Just be like, hey, that's not what we're saying. We're saying they're playing normally. Because that's what playing normally is. You just play the goddamn game and you do your role. It's like if you're on Survivor and you just refuse to do the gens. You're like, oh, I'm a nice survivor. I don't do the gens. And it's like, okay, but like you're still, you know, what? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's confusing me even trying to explain it. Like, it's wild. Whatever. It says, on the flip side, for example, having killers to hit you on hook for no reason, or it just leaves a bad taste in your mouth. Are people really that concerned with that? Like, why are you doing that? Is it a big deal? Hell no, but it's unnecessary and certainly not done in a we're both having a good time playing this game we love, aren't we kind of way. I think so. There's something about playing the Survivor side that like really wires people's brains differently, where like you're telling me somebody M1ing somebody on a hook is somehow taken as you're being a dick, and it's like, So this person says, I'm asking because I'm ignorant and may have outdated information. Wasn't hitting on the hook to stop the survivors from screaming? The answer is yes. As a killer player, yes. Not every, like, sometimes these survivors have really annoying screams, and either you have to tab out to try to, like, you know, which it lasts for a while, like Steve or Fung Min or something with the screeching, like the frequencies. It gets loud as hell. You're like, yo, shut the hell up. So sometimes you just want to have a nice, little less quieter game. You know what I mean? So you slap them so they stop yelling. You go like, shut up. You know what I mean? And then for Plague, yes. Yeah, to answer this person, Plague does have the whole vomiting on hook will make other survivors sick. They say in certain ways it's fine. One quick hit before leaving would never bother me, but hanging around to do 3 to 4, then leaving just seems excessive and unnecessary. I mean, but to be fair as well, if they're standing around slapping you like 3 or 4 times, that means that they're not chasing anybody. To be fair though, you know what I mean? So like, the way I'm seeing it, right, at least from like a killer perspective, talking on that point, if they're going out of their way to do that, you're directly getting a benefit, because that means they're not hitting anyone, they're not chasing anyone, they're not kicking a gen, they're not damaging or activating any perks. They're just sitting around slapping you. So that's already extra time your team has now, because they're standing around like, yeah, I got this guy, and it whack, yeah, you know what I mean? Like, they're just doing that over and over, like, you know, it's like beating on your survivor's meat, like, you know what I mean? It's like, at that point, like, they're not killing anybody else at that point. Maybe that's just me, right? Maybe, I don't know. I'm just saying as a killer player, I'm like, I don't think that's beneficial. You know, I don't know. That's when, to me, it starts to seem a bit rude and only to piss you, the player, off. Which, I mean, I think that's the same way with teabags and things like that. I do find it funny when they get the instant karma though, but anyway. I'm not someone who teabags or ever uses flashlights or does anything to annoy killers, so I don't understand why people just want to aggravate people for no reason. Yeah. So let's see. So they go, yes, hitting on hook stops the screen, but you also could tab out. Obviously, yeah, maybe people shouldn't get upset over hitting on hook, but at the end of the day, people come home from work to chill. And if they had a shit day, the last thing they want to do is the thought that some random online wants to BM them, even if you're not meaning to. Yeah, I guess. Now, I personally, at least from my perspective, I would not say that DBD is a relaxing game anyway. So if you had a bad day, I would probably play something a little nicer, you know, that isn't potentially going to aggravate you. Maybe consider Stardew Valley. Wonderful, wonderful game. A masterpiece. I mean, there's a lot of farming games that are wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Casual, very stress-free, and can really help you decompress. That's just my take. If you wanted to play, I mean, shit, Minecraft, what the, like, oh my god, the list goes on. Any other game you could think of, like, at least a single player experience. Maybe not maybe Dark Souls if you want to go that far, but still. Another person says that it's messed up to hit them on hook. What? What? It's very strange. That's very strange. I gotta say, it's very strange. This is very strange. Let's go ahead and take a little skim through before we end. So this person says something pretty dumb. Because it says, man confused by the concept of sportsmanship. I'm like, no, that's not it. That's not it at all. And this person's sportsmanship is being cordial and not gloating when you win or throwing a fit when you lose. Also not trying to intentionally aggravate your opponents. So, i.e., teabagging at the exit gate. Right? Just saying. Playing to win using the tools the game gives you is not poor sportsmanship. Literally no gaming community thinks this other than DBD. The community has equated intentional game mechanics like tunneling and slugging to poor sportsmanship, even if they're done in the interest of winning and not out of malice. Which is true. 9 times out of 10, you see any killer player that's trying to slug or use a tunnel. Even myself, if you ever seen my streams, I'm like, look, I got like, I'm like, look, we have 2-3 gens like already flying. I gotta get somebody out of the game. And I usually go for that person. And I'll say it out loud. I go, look, I'm trying to win this. I gotta get this person out. So this person says sportsmanship is not pulling your punches and playing your best, not going easy on the other players. My definition, anyways, to each their own. I agree with Dr. Katz, and I've seen another comment like that as well. They had said, you know, my respect to my opponent is doing my best, and I expect that from them. I expect them to do their best, and we both try our best, and we see who comes out on top. And I'm like, you know what? I like that. I agree with that statement. That's a really good statement to have. And they go, actually, no. It's pretty common to ease off your opponent instead of running up the score. But hey, maybe you find shooting fish in a barrel exhilarating. Now, let's keep in mind, right, that not as I've never heard of anybody doing that. It's so before we crash out, okay? Notice the language. They say pretty common. And remember, you know, this is important when you're looking at stuff like this, trying to understand what our perspectives are. So look, they go actually no, like nerd emoji. Then they go, it's pretty common, right? And then they say they fail to actually give examples. Then they lead it with an insult, right? They go, but hey, maybe you find shooting fish in a barrel exhilarating. So they're trying to say, because notice the language, they're trying to say, maybe you find shooting fish in a barrel exhilarating. So I looked up the definition of shooting in a barrel just so you guys know, you know, just to make sure that I'm 100% accurate with what this says. So it says, like shooting fish in a barrel, extremely easy, right? So according to them, right? Okay. So I wanted to make sure I looked up the definition of like shooting fish in a barrel just to make sure that I understand completely, you know what I mean? And according to the dictionary definition, it says extremely easy. So you're basically saying she's trying to, like, this person is trying to imply that Dr. Katz here finds like super easy games. Oh my god, so exhilarating. It's so much fun. And this is the mentality that I've been trying to kind of break down for you guys. Like when you're dealing with situations like these, posters like these, like opinionated people like these, when you're dealing with opinionated people like these, you will notice that they will lead with that. They will lead with just making up some statement. They never give an example. Then they lead to insults, right? So then Dr. Katz, not at all. I'm just thinking of sports and anything competitive. Trying less than your best is disrespectful to opponent. But it's as others have said here, I think we should have casual and more competitive queues and modes. But queue times can be long sometimes, as it is so tough to know how to solve it. Right? Keep in mind, I've never, at least personally, anecdotally, right? Anecdotal. Dibbity-bibbity. Anecdotally, I have never seen or heard of that before. Where they go, we gotta ease up, like they're losing. And if you're a sports enjoyer, baseball, football, hockey, whatever you watch, leave a comment, let us know. Have you ever seen that before? Have you ever seen them ease up when they're winning? I've never seen that personally. They say, I am comparing to sports. Only in major tournaments and highly competitive leagues you would never ease up. DBD is not that. So, what are we talking about here? I've even in regular sports, like who is playing who like, this is what I'm saying. Like, I feel like they just kind of make up stuff because I've never heard of that. Chess or anything like that. I've never heard like that you just play badly because they're playing badly. Like, I just never heard of that. But that's going to be the end of the video for you guys. If you enjoyed it, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comment section, of course. I'll be linking this Reddit thread in the description. So in case that you maybe want to read it up or maybe even like respond or discuss it with other people, feel free to do so. And consider hitting that sub button, becoming a member if you really want to support. Whether be on Twitch or YouTube or Patreon or something. You'll have your name at read off at the end of every video. I'll see you guys in the next one. All right, let's go ahead and read off our members from Patreon: Pro King 101, YouTube members: Cargan Falcon, Evil Blade, Cap Courteous, WTF You're Not J-Lo, Evil Peach, Cozy Bozy, Theo Endire, Dole Whip, Noxus, Zero Mocker, Jack, Christian, and Crow Vader. And for the Twitch, we have Final Girl Bunny, Leona Art, Zazabu, Evil Blade, Danica, Crow Vader, Cake is a Road, Zeneron, Ginsburg, Mr. Morik, Kevin, Zero Mocker, Ashai Boo, and Gryffindor. Appreciate you guys supporting. Really means a lot. If you want to become a member, you can go ahead and join through Patreon or YouTube members, or even sub on Twitch. See you guys in the next one.